Sorry, do I have to start over? Okay. It's on, okay. Did I press the wrong button? Gray button, okay. Still getting used to it, sorry. So I need a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda. Moved by Bob, seconded by Randy. All those in favor? Thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on. There are no delegations tonight, Madam Clerk. And let's move on to reports and items for consideration for tonight. And first on top is 5.1, General Government. 5.1.1, the adoption of the COVID-19 vaccination policy. And you've all had a chance to go over the policy. And does anybody have any questions or concerns? No? No? Wow. Seeing. Oh, maybe Mark, you'd like to say a word
Well,
on it?
just for the general public,
Yes,
so they're
please.
aware what's happening. As you recall, during the September 15th meeting, we said that we'd be working on our vaccination policy. So in order, the municipality's responsibility in safeguarding the health and safety of our employees and our workers, as of November 1st, proof of vaccination will be mandatory within the community or within our organization for all council, employees, volunteers, students, interns, contractors that are working within our buildings and facilities. If proof of vaccination is not made available, the second choice would be to provide written attestation of medical reasons why, with a potential time frame, or any Ontario Human Rights codes, and it lists out what our obligations are within the policy, and that they will require to undertake testing on a weekly basis and provide proof of a negative test at the beginning of an antigen negative test at the beginning of a work week, and must complete a vaccination educational session, which is listed at the back. So if council approves the policy this evening, staff and other employees and volunteers will be made aware, and that by November 1st, this policy will become effective.
Thank you. Any comments? Councillor Randy.
Was there any input from the staff into how they felt about the policy that's being presented? I don't see any trouble with it, but...
We did have a circulation at our control group meeting, and we also had a circulation within our managers and directors of the organization.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I need a mover and a seconder. Renee, moved by Renee, seconded by Randy.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that Council approves the COVID-19 vaccination policy as attached and dated October 6, 2021.
No, not a problem. If I may, Madam Mayor, just give council in the public a brief update on the Alban Community Centre. Our Director of Operations has been working with UniV, the organizer of the programs. Our protocols are in place, including the mandatory vaccination for entrance to the buildings, along of who's responsible to gather the information and keep the information. So we're happy to report that that is being done and has come to an agreement. And starting October 18th, I think the pickleball will start. The Kangoo will start on Wednesday, October 20th. Shuffleboard will be on Thursdays, October 21st starting, and the yoga starting Saturday, October 16th. The one main protocol is that we are only allowing one event per day for the simple purpose of being able to disinfect the building at least once after every event, and that's the staff that we have available to meet those requirements. So happy to say that the Alban Community Centre is going to be reopening as early as Saturday after the long weekend, because we are doing some internal training with our staff on a few days after the long weekend.
Thank you. I know that there will be a lot of people happy to get back into some sense of normalcy and activities again. Randy?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's really great to hear the Alvin Community Center is going to be open for public use. I know we have a big project planned, and that was one of the reasons why we hadn't opened the doors to this point, because we're renovating that building. Where are we in that process, and when will that renovation begin?
So there's some small renovations set for this fall in terms of changing the lights to LEDs and doing some installation of automatic doors. We're still in the process of finalizing those dates. The crunch of the program will be meeting with our engineering firm to set up a time frame in the new year in terms of when the major renovations will take place. And currently, we are not accepting rentals next year at this point because that'll be the major year that most of the work will get done.
Other questions?
So now that the gym is reopening, will the hall in the arena be made available, or is it still being used by the Rapids?
The arrangement with the Rapids is if somebody wants to make use of the arena hall, the priority will go to the rental. In advance, they will need to vacate for the use of it.
Okay, so there'll be a hall to be rented. Good to know.
That's great. Good news. All right, let's move on to 5.2, finances. I don't believe there's a report on finances tonight. 5.3, Public Works and Environment Services. 5.3.1, there's a bylaw in front of you to authorize an extension agreement of the equipment for winter operation with BTUMA bulldozing for one additional winter season, 2021, as per the current agreement. Any questions regarding this? Seeing none. I need a mover and a seconder. Dave and Benny.
Thank you. It is duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-57, being a bylaw to authorize the extension agreement of the equipment for winter operations with BTUMA bulldozing for one additional winter season till 2021 and 2022, be read at first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. Let's move on to 5.3.2, which is a bylaw to authorize the winter road maintenance agreement for the private portion of Lafrenière Road. I should let people know that I did get a constituent who contacted me and raised some concerns. I think his concerns were more about some of the other stuff that were happening. So he did write to me a letter, an email, which I've acknowledged, and I've replied to him. Tonight I received an acknowledgement from him thanking for the response. He did have some more questions, but they're not really related to the winter agreement. They're related to other issues that he's dealing with other residents on that road. So, but I wanted to make sure that I acknowledged his concern publicly, and that I think I've addressed his concern and referred him to the proper channels to get his concerns addressed. So having said this, I need a mover and a seconder. Renee and Bob.
Duly moved and seconded, we resolve that bylaw 2021-55, being a bylaw to authorize the winter road maintenance agreement with Trout Lake East Road Fund for the private portion of Lafrenière Road, be read first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Thank you. Question?
There we go. Through you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question regarding this agreement. There's no cost associated no cost listed here. What's it cost us to maintain that road for the winter? Just curious what the actual expense is for this.
Tank or Mark?
Hello? There we go. Good day, everyone. Yes, so Lafrenière Road, there's no cost associated to the road because we charge by the hour that we operate, and every winter season is different storms. and it also depends on how much sand we apply on the road, because that's another one of our factors. I don't have the number off the top of my head to, sorry. Yeah. I don't have a current price off the top of my head to address to that, but I can definitely look it up for you.
So currently, last year, what did we spend then to maintain that section of road? And why is it just not automatically assumed then? If we're going to be doing this year over year, should it not just be something we would consider assuming for the municipality?
Yeah, this system's going to frustrate me. To answer your question, Councillor Randy, the municipality recuperates this cost, so all the costs associated with the maintenance for the winter road is billed out to the residents in question or the association that we sign the contract with. I know globally on all of our contracts, we generate on a yearly basis approximately $10,000 to $12,000 a year, depending on the season and the amount of materials put forth. In terms of doing it regularly, it's a private road, and our policy clearly states that we do not maintain private roads, although we are entitled to enter into agreements for cost recovery to assist in winter maintenance. Does that answer your question?
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor? Thank you. We'll move on now to a bylaw to authorize, again, winter road maintenance agreement with the private Amatawaki River Road. So I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Renee, seconded by Randy. Any questions? Again, it's the same thing. Go.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be resolved that bylaw 2021-56, being a bylaw to authorize the winter road maintenance agreement with Amatiwaki River Road Association for the private Amatiwaki River Road, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. I'd like now to move to 5.3.4, which is the Chair of the Environmental Advisory Committee's report. And so, Councillor Randy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the committee met on, it wasn't June 22nd, recently. We had a representative from the Ontario Clean Water Agency come and talk to us about the lagoons and the condition of the lagoons and what's been done to maintain them over the year. They raised a small concern with the north cell of the lagoon having excessive suspended solids in it, with no way of determining exactly why. So we asked for a little more detail from the representative to come back as to what the next steps will be to correct that. We also asked about outflows and conditions of the cell before, how long it would be till we have to replace it. And everybody at the meeting was generally satisfied with the way the questions were answered. We also, Councillor Millette had posted a bunch of questions about the transfer sites, which were all answered. Generally, we all agree that the new changes have been adopted fairly well, and citizens are adjusting. It seems to be very nice now the way that they've set up the municipal yard here in Noelville. It's much cleaner, much more controlled. There was a question about illegal dumping, and it's been noted that there hasn't been any excessive dumping at this point. People are taking their garbage to the landfill and seem to be following along really well. So, roundtable. Oh, there was a short update about the environmental assessment at the Noelville landfill site. We're waiting for the engineer's report on that. And then, again, more talk at the roundtable about feedback from residents regarding the bin sites and some water quality issues that were brought up with Trout Lake and local water bodies that we were discussing different measures that might be taken in the future to consider improving the water in those lakes and bodies of water. So that basically covered it. It was a great discussion.
Any questions for Councillor Randy? So the feedback that we're getting from the residents, things have calmed down now that people are getting used to the new system?
I believe from what the the discussion at the roundtable and speaking to the staff. People in the beginning were obviously, change is hard to figure out how the new system is going to work and to figure out, what days the dump's open and not and what to do. But generally, people have settled in, I think, to the idea, and they seem to be following the rules. And it has benefited. The municipality looks cleaner. The bin sites are much better maintained, the ones that we've made changes at. So I believe, more or less, people are satisfied with the change. We had to do something.
Thank you. And do we know how many tickets are being given out? They are being given out regularly, right? And I'm hoping, what did I do wrong? Renee? Okay, sorry. Do we know how many tickets approximately, and are they from people from in our municipality or outside our municipality?
As of that meeting, I think we're in the neighborhood of 30 offenses. A majority of them have to do with people outside of our community.
Excellent. Councillor Renee?
I've had a lot of good feedback from the bins in Novel. People are very satisfied. They they say it looks so clean now, and it is more functionable because all the recycling's mostly all on one side and the garbage on the other. At first, a lot of people were panicking because of the hours. They didn't understand the concept, but now I think they said, oh, it makes sense that it's open 3 straight days and closed 4 straight days. So they're getting used to that idea. And a lot of people say they don't mind going to the landfill itself. The only issue was a little bit of mud when we had all that rain, which I guess they got some gravel brought in and that helped out. I know Kevin did mention that he has a potential plan for the future that'll be discussed, I guess, for that. I know that there has been a few comments made about the Manettville bins, that people are abusing the bins out there. So I'm not sure if maybe we start having more patrolling out there now that, our other ones are intact or better. I don't know if that's possible or not, but.
To answer your question, Councillor Renee, yes, the officers are out on a regular basis and have earmarked Manettville as an area, as well as Shaw Road, and we're still experiencing some difficulties in Albin as well.
And through you, Madam Mayor, also Kevin had mentioned at the meeting that there are new cameras being placed at Shaw Road and Manettville too, I think. So there's an increase of cameras that have been placed in those sites that will further help track the situation and catch people that in those areas aren't following the rules as well. So,
Other comments? Thank you. I'll move on then to 5.3.5, which is the Public Works Chair's report on the advisory committee.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. We had a Public Works meeting on September 29th. We discussed the information report and review of the traffic parking bylaw of 2009-58. Staff presented the information within the report, such as missing information and updating the schedule within the bylaw to current procedures, routes, regulatory signage, and road names. Sorry, trouble reading my writing. The committee members agreed that this bylaw should be reviewed and updated with the emphasis on max speed on municipal roads. It was also suggested that these revisions or updates be brought back to the Public Works Committee for revision. The Public Works Committee recommends the Council to direct staff to review and recommend updates to the bylaw 2009-58. And I don't know if Martin wants to speak a little bit on it before Mel reads it. Do we have a resolution? Or?
Good evening again. So bylaw 2009-58 it basically focuses on our parking bylaws, but also focuses on our roads and some of the signage that is associated with the roads, such as stop signs and yield signs, and the majority of our road names and intersections are within there, but a lot of the roads have either been misspelt or have changed their names in the last 12 years. So it's just recommended to council that staff review it, update it as needed, and bring it back to the Public Works Committee for a review.
Thank you, Martin. Do we have a resolution? Yeah.
Yeah, we can do them.
There's a couple, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you do them all at once?
Yeah.
Do it right now?
Do them. Okay. No.
Randy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just going to ask a quick question of the committee chair. So speed has been identified as a problem on certain roads. Do we know what roads that they're recommending these speed controls be monitored on with these new devices that were mentioned?
I think this is why it was recommended to do the study, so that we do know all the roads. We know some where the speed thing was there, but we don't know all the data until we actually review it. This is why we're doing the recommendation.
So there isn't a targeted group of roads at this point. We're just going to preferably purchase the equipment and try different roads to see where enforcement should be stepped up, or do we, Martin, have an idea? Like Dump Road, I hear is sometimes quite excessive.
Yes, we have targeted roads that we'd like to hit to start, but once we acquire that data, we'll be able to hit all the roads eventually and just acquire data. Data is always good for a number of things, so. But yes, we do have targeted roads to start off with.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have a resolution that deals with that? Okay. So I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Randy and Dave.
It is duly moved and seconded, whereas at their meeting held September 29th, the Public Works Advisory Committee received a report on the proposed review of the traffic and parking bylaw and adopted a recommendation for council's consideration. Now therefore be it resolved that council directs staff to review and recommend updates to the traffic and parking bylaw 2019-58.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The next discussion was an update on speed reports and costing for alternative devices to collect road data. Staff provided the committee with information on speed travels on municipal roads and provided potential benefits of acquiring data collection devices to monitor road user activities. The committee discussed the possible data that could be collected and how it could provide statistics to support maximum road speed enforcement and appropriate signage. The committee also discussed the classification of our roads and current maintenance standards. The committee agreed that the classifications could be reviewed should the municipality consider the purchase of data collection devices. And I don't know if Martin wants to speak on that again to give a little bit more detail.
Yes. So this section here, we're talking about specifically road speed and counting devices. So currently we have a speed sign on Dry Pine Bay Road, which collects car counts and speed. And so we can use that data to figure out more or less the flow of traffic, how much cars are going down there, so we can use it to determine the proper amount of our road classifications. The big thing with those signs is they help deter speed for speeders, because it tells you how fast you're going, and hopefully nobody's trying to set a high score. But so what we're also proposing is to get some that don't have the speeds showing, because if we hide it, then we can get the actual speed of the majority of the population. So they're not being, at least they don't think they're being watched when they're driving by. So at least we can get an accurate count of what the speed is on the road. And that way, if we find the speeds are too high, then we can use that data, bring it to the OPP, get them to patrol our roads more often. Or if the speeds are too low, then we can look at potentially changing our speeds for those roads just to make it easier for walkers and everything that has to be done with the road. Oh, and also car counts. Sorry, that was another issue. There are other devices that we would like to purchase that are just car counters, because we don't need a very expensive device just to count cars. Sometimes we just need that data.
I have Renee, then I have Randy.
Okay, just a few questions. Do we know approximately how much these devices cost?
Yes, we do. I know the device, the one that we currently bought was, I believe, $4,500. The secret devices, we'll call them, the ones that don't show your speed, those are roughly about $4,000 to $5,000. And the car counters, they're in the couple hundreds. Those are more cheap. They're very old school.
Okay, and do you know how many you would, you suggest purchasing of these?
I would suggest at least one. 1 to 2 would be good starter. And we have approximately 125 roads to monitor. So I don't need a whole whack of them, but more than one would probably be, help us collect data a little bit faster.
So I assume this will be put in your budget for next year? That is the plan if council recommends it?
I think there's a resolution and recommendation from the committee to that effect.
Randy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now, I was going to say, isn't it below a price threshold, so it doesn't have to go to the budget process? It's just operational?
It's still an item that was not contemplated within the 2021 budget, thus still needs to go through the process of 2022.
Okay, that was my only curiosity. The other questions were answered by Councillor Renee. Thank you.
I just want to make a comment. The OPP does have, I think they call it the Black Cat. Is that what they call it? And they did a study on Highway 64 because we were getting a lot of complaints in the Alban area. And that was amazing. I mean, the report that was generated by the OPP was outstanding, as well as it, because they realized that there was a huge problem. We noticed a huge difference in patrolling, speed traps, and they even had MTO change the 60 sign to a larger sign. So, and their presence was far more obvious than it had been in the past couple of years. So I think those are great tools. I can hardly see you over there.
Yeah, and
The sun is
sorry,
coming down.
the people here, I can't see them at all. No, just to add that OPP report at our Public Works meeting, we had a copy of a couple of the months, the data that the OPP had furnished us, and a lot of information, and I think this is a tool that Public Works needs and should have. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. With that, the Public Works Committee recommends the council to consider the purchase of road data collection devices. We have a resolution.
Before I ask for the resolution, I need to know how many is being proposed. Do we know?
I think it's one, minimum one, but again, it's going to be, the resolution refers to further requests to the budget deliberations, at which time you can get more details at that point.
Okay.
And depending on how much money we have to spend, we may need to cut back.
Okay, can you, I just want you to read the resolution first. I just couldn't, I didn't find it here in my package, so.
So whereas at their meeting held September 29th, a Public Works Advisory Committee received a report on potential benefits of acquiring data collection devices to monitor road user activities and adopted a recommendation for council's consideration. Now therefore be it resolved that council consider the purchase of road data collection devices during the 2022 budget deliberations.
Okay, thank you, sorry. So I need a mover and a seconder. I know I did it backwards, but Dave and Bob. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Then we move on to 5.3.6, and that's the award of purchase of a municipal fleet optimization program report. And I believe, Martin, are you going to speak to it? Okay.
Good day, Council. So we had asked in the budget to look for a fleet optimization program back in March, and we finally got bids out. We are looking to award this program to, or award it from GoEvo Incorporated for a price of $20,163.38. That is currently a one-time fee, but there is a reoccurring cost. Not that cost, it's cheaper than that. What the program does, the background behind it is, it's a fleet optimization program for Public Works and Parks and Rec. What it does is it's basically an application on your cell phone or a tablet or the internet. And what it does is it tracks all of our assets, all of our paperwork essentially for Public Works and Parks and Rec. So you're looking at circle checks on the trucks. You're looking at the luminary checks every year, our signage checks, our culverts, our roads, our patrol logs, our work logs, I can just keep naming more and more logs, our grading logs, our plowing logs. I know Parks and Rec would use it for checking their splash pad, their parks, their grass cutting. It's basically a giant system that keeps track of everything that's going on. I do believe that this system would be a great help to Public Works and Parks and Rec. That way we can finally get on the same page where we're not losing paperwork, where everybody's in the know because everybody will have that information at the same time. So it's just a very good system to optimize our performance.
Randy?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So currently, we don't have those files digitized where you can easily access them from one source? Because I know we have fleet management software already where we can track all the vehicles.
So at the moment, we do have GPS in our vehicles to track where the trucks are, but it's what did the trucks do while they're out there is the issue. So right now, I have the guys write out logs, but sometimes those logs get lost in the trucks. They forget to bring them in. They put it on my desk, they put it on Michelle's desk, they put it on someone else's desk, and we end up losing this information. Or what ends up happening is I ask somebody to get a job done, they get the job done, which is fantastic. A week later, I forget about it, or they forgot to do it, they had another job on the go, and we're just losing track of little jobs here and there. So this way, ideally, so our lead hand has a cell phone, I have a cell phone, I would issue the job to our lead hand, they would assign it to one of our workers, they get the job done, report it back, they would check it off, I would get a notification this job is done. Then for other things that could happen, if our CAO asked a question about this thing and he can get reports, our director can get our reports, instead of not say constantly bugging staff to find it, but all the information will be available.
So currently then, we're still operating on a paper system, so these files aren't digitized where they can be shared from department to department in any way.
That's correct.
So we'll essentially be saving manpower hours by not chasing down this paperwork then, so this is a very positive for the municipality.
It's funny you say that, because I know the guys don't like doing paperwork, so when I get them to sit down and write 2-3 logs, and they don't like paperwork, well, I got 10 employees, and I get all of that paperwork to do, so that's basically what happens. So at the end of the day, at the end of the week, when I get the paper, I can digitize it, but there's that week of information that I'm missing.
Okay.
So a good example is our grading logs. So I asked the grading operator to go to Trout Lake, and he does it. And what ends up happening is that he has a logbook, and he writes it off, and he brings those logs in at the end of the month. So 2-3 weeks down the road, somebody would ask, hey, did Trout Lake get done? I'd either have to find the operator, find the grader, to ask him if it got done or not. And that's where we don't get that info immediately, and that's where some discrepancies happen.
Excellent. So it'd be very great for the municipality to speed up that connectivity then and save actually manpower hours looking for that stuff. So I'm all for it.
Any other questions or comments? There is a resolution before us, so I need a mover and a seconder. Renee and Randy.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that council awards contract 2021-11 for the Municipal Fleet Optimization Program to Go Evo Inc. for an amount of $20,163.38 plus applicable taxes.
All those in favor? Thank you. We'll now move on to 5.4, which is Recreation and Community Services. So Councillor Renee will report on the Recreation and Community Advisory Committee. Renee?
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We discussed a few things. We discussed the volunteer night. So we decided that for this year, we would recommend to council to not hold a volunteer night, just with all the COVID restrictions and stuff and not knowing if everybody's vaccinated. And so, but we did mention that maybe what we would do would be a monthly blast on our social media for anybody who be wanting to, if there's a volunteer in the area where you think they should be acknowledged for the good work they do, whether it's, for the food bank or maybe the market that happened, So every month we would put a different person on there or group and just, thank them and make people aware of all the activities that are going out there and all the people that do volunteer their hard work. So we were thinking of doing something along that line. So another discussion was the Joe Chartrand Park update. Last year in our budget, we had $8,000 put away for a sound system for that area. Councillor Mallette did a few inquiries, and after talking to a few people, he noticed that we would be better purchasing a bigger sound equipment and one that could be moved around from building to building as needed for any event. So not specifically just for Joe Chartrand Park, but if we were to have an event here or host something in the arena or in Albin, something that could be easily moved around and that could be more useful. But along came with that was an increase because we have 8,000, but they were looking at approximately 25 for the whole project. So it is recommended to council that we take that into consideration when we're doing the budget deliberations for next year. And so to make better use of the sound system for any event moving forward. We also spoke about, we applied for some funding for Joe Chartrand Park. We are hoping to get the funding, which would allow us to have a playground within the park, but that's something that's very nature related. We have met with a lady who has given us a few ideas of how we could move forward for that. Potentially, if we get that grant, we would look at putting in bathrooms, which would be good for rentals if somebody wanted to use that space for weddings or, family reunions, or, we could accommodate that and maybe make better use of the park because it is beautiful and it should be used. And maybe we also talked about maybe there's 3 outdoor fireplaces there, outdoor cooking areas. So maybe getting one of those fixed up so that we could use it and keep the culture of that space. Another discussion we had was about the beautification project, about the hanging baskets this year and how they did well, they presented well, something that a lot of people had a lot of good comments, and hopefully we continue on for next year. And we would like to have the same budget, if possible, for next year moving forward for our flowers. So that was another consideration. There is a new project also being undertaken with the art gallery, working with them, of putting up 4 murals in the area, so between Albin and Doquis and French River, and we're looking at different areas, and we'd like to have 4 that represent the culture in the area. So that'll, potentially be happening in the next 2 years. They've already discussed, and at our next meeting, they'll give us more of an update on that. We talked about ballpark bleachers the baseball people that play baseball. There we have a few baseball teams. They would like to have the bleacher benches inside where the baseball players sit fixed and potentially have a roof on top. They did discuss that there's a potential donation to be done to be put towards that. So we discussed maybe getting just some quotes on what it would cost to fix a bench and put a little roof on it. So maybe just do one field at a time, and we have presently 3 fields in Noelville, 1 in Albin. So just upgrades for the future for these ball teams, so that, because right now they're in pretty rough shape. We also mentioned the Christmas parade, and unfortunately this year, after speaking with Joëlle Viau, who is in charge of the Christmas parade, she did confirm that there will not be a Christmas parade this year because of COVID and the restrictions of a lot of people outdoors. So she has been told by the health unit that it would be a good reason to not have the Christmas parade again this year. We talked about the musical instrument project that will be happening in Albin. We did have a $5,000 budget line associated with that if we could raise the funds. So I'm happy to announce that the Caisse Populaire Alliance did donate $20,000 to this project, which allows, and I believe we discussed at our last meeting, allowed for at least 3, potentially 4 musical instruments. So that's really good news. And that'll be happening, I guess, next summer. That'll be put. Mark will speak to that.
Just an update, 4 instruments have been ordered and should be delivered by December 1st. Will be stored in our facilities and installed in the spring.
Good news. And then we talked about the Albin Beach. So the signage has gone up. They've done a lot of cleanup out there. They've done the rocks. There's still a few things to be done. There's still the fencing and that kind of stuff. And I believe they're still working on the engineer and the swing to be put up. But their things are moving along quite nicely and within the budget that was allocated. So that was another discussion. And I think all in all, that's pretty much, it was a big enough meeting because we had a lot of discussions. We also talked about the VAA trail, and a lot of people have been using it lately, so it's amazing back there. They've done a great job, so it'll be nice to see the next phase done. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Renee. Any questions or comments for Renee? Councillor Bob.
Through you, Madam Chair. I just don't want to cancel Santa Claus. To me, it's so important. It's a family thing. I can't just accept that Sudbury Health Unit would say you can put 30,000 people in the Sky Dome, and you can put so many to go watch my Maple Leafs lose, and we can't have a parade for 300 people, 500 people, an outdoor event where families with their children can see jolly old Saint Nick. I would like to look further into this, if I may, without stepping on anybody's feet.
The parade is not a municipal event. The parade is organized by Joëlle, and actually, for people's information, in memory of Tammy Mitchell, a former councillor here, and they are the ones that have undertaken it. So I don't believe the municipality participates in it, and but the organizing of it is done by an outside group.
And I think it's not so much, I think that the issue is with how do you control all the people that put the floats in? How do you know that they are all vaccinated when they are all lined up together? So that there's a control issue in that sense, because, you know, you would have to ask every single float member on the float to have proof of vaccination in order to participate. And then how do you control the crowd outside who's all, having them stay 6 feet apart outside. Like I realize in the Sky Dome or at the hockey game, they are asking for proof of vaccination as they enter the building, and they're controlling the seats and stuff. So I think that is the issue. If we could control everybody and make sure that everybody is vaccinated that attends the parade, then perhaps that would be possible, but I don't see a way in how we control what happens outdoors in a large area. Because it's the whole village, right? So I don't know. If you could make it happen, that would be great, but
One option might be to extend the route, though, spread it out over a longer distance so people can spread out further and ask and put markers down that, here's 6 feet, here's 6 feet, and go through a longer path. And then insist on vaccination checks for the people on the floats could possibly make it happen. I also wonder what would be involved in creating it as a municipal undertaking. I know that municipal is very well busy, but it's a source of pride for the community, and to continue an event like this is important. So just my thoughts, but.
Bob?
Yes, thank you. When you mentioned, Councillor Randy, municipal undertaking, I saw Mark's eyes light up there. Sometimes, I don't know, you mentioned, Councillor Rene, that how do you check the people on the sidewalks? Maybe sometimes you just have to, if they say they're vaccinated, you have to take their word for it. I mean, the onus is also on the person to be safe. I know there's anti-vaxxers out there, and we can't control everyone. We can control within our buildings and but out on the sidewalk and in front of the houses, and a family will be together. I mean, we can't ask them to be 6 feet apart, but I mean, the next family is across the lot line. I would really like to see the parade go through, and at some point we're trying to open up, and I think this is such an important event that I'm not saying we're going to have the party and the meal we used to for this year. That's almost an impossibility. But at least the parade. I'll dress up and go behind a pickup and drive around. And Andrea, I think you can attest to that. So anyway, those are my thoughts, my feelings. I think we'll have a little discussion after the meeting.
And that's what I was going to suggest. Let's see if it is doable, and maybe it's just a parade with 5 floats. Let's reach out to Joelle and see what we can do. And then maybe, it's 1 police car, 1 fire truck, and 1 municipal float that you can help, and you could be Santa Claus, or we'll see.
I don't mind if there's just 1 float with Santa. Let's have something. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, we'll discuss it.
Randy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. All right, we should also wait and see, I guess, how maybe the City of Toronto, they run theirs a little early, and if they decide to run, and some of these bigger centers do run a parade just the same, who knows? But I'd also enter a Lions Club float, just to say. It's a public gathering space, so.
Well, I think that at the end of the day, that's a discussion to have with Joelle. It takes months and a lot of staff or volunteer hours to put that together. No matter if there's 10 floats or 100 floats, it's still a lot of work. So if somebody wants to reach out to Joelle and have that discussion with her. But it's not a municipal event, though we support it. But it's not a municipal event, okay? René, were you done with your report? Okay, so then we'll move on to 5.4.2, which is the approval of the fitness center equipment replacement and COVID update. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you see in the report, members have been long awaiting the reopening of our fitness room, and that finally came to fruition on October 4th of this week. We started selling memberships the week of September 27th. All protocols are in place, including proof of vaccination at the point of purchase, limiting the use of up to 3 members at a time, closing off the showers and the lockers as some of the examples of the protocols, including pre-screening and all of those other good things. In preparation of opening the fitness center, we brought in our technicians, which is FitCheck, who did an inspection and had determined that one of our multi-purpose machines were no longer safe to use and should be replaced. And it so happens that St. Charles, who's meeting tonight to declare the similar piece of equipment as surplus due to it being used on the second floor of the health unit offices and creating excessive noise. So we sent an email saying that we're reporting to council saying that we'd probably be interested in purchasing it if council approves the report this evening. And then in terms of the cleaning and cleaning materials, we've estimated about $600 a month. The ongoing equipment check on a monthly basis, about $125 a month. The pre-inspection at $436, and then the purchase of the equipment and installation is about $2,500. The premise of operating the fitness center was always under the assumption that the sale of the memberships would offset the expenses. Due to COVID-related issues and reopening, until such a time as the revenue stream can be reestablished through that process, I'm recommending that council consider an amount of funds through our COVID-related funding. So as you're all aware, we've received 3 different streams of funding to offset operational needs related to COVID through federal and provincial programs, offset revenues and purchases, and providing protocols for the safe use of our facilities. And that fund sits at about $454,000. So based on my report this evening, I'm requesting council to consider using part of these funds up to $20,000 to replace the equipment, make sure that the facility is clean on a daily basis to standards, and to make sure that the equipment is repaired on an ongoing basis and inspected, and to allow this to up to $20,000 for the time that a stabilized funding can be of membership sales can be brought back to pre-COVID levels.
Question?
So the fees would stay the same fees as last year?
We have not increased the fees.
To you, Madam Mayor, how are the membership sales going? Where are we at compared to previous?
We just started selling memberships. The last I heard, we were up to 8 or 9 memberships sold at this time.
That's not bad, okay.
Other questions? So there's a resolution to allow $20,000 worth of COVID funding usage to offset the cost for the reopening of our gym and to the ongoing costs until we catch up with our memberships. Just another comment. People are asking why the fitness center is not open on the weekend. Maybe you can comment for the public on that?
Yeah, but very quickly, due to the staff availability from our contract with the school board, we can only do the daily cleaning on a weekly basis, as their staff does not do the cleaning on weekends. And I forgot to mention, sorry, the operating hours are from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. They will be readjusted in February to take in consideration the school usage as per our agreement.
Thank you. So I need a mover and a seconder, please. I have Renee and I have Bob.
Duly moved and seconded, be it resolved that council authorizes the use of the COVID-19 municipal operating funding available for the fitness center reopening costs outlined in the report up to amount of $20,000 to allow a reasonable time frame to stabilize membership revenues to pre-pandemic levels.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. There is no Emergency and Protection Services report, so we'll move on to 5.6, Building, Planning, and Development. And I see Andrea has joined us. Thank you, Andrea. So we'll go to 5.6.1, which is the bylaw to license travel trailers in our municipality. Andrea?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is the final draft of the travel trailer licensing bylaw. We're looking for the third reading this evening. There were a couple of small changes made because this bylaw was sent in for review by the province for the fines. They noticed that one of our fines wasn't worded properly to activate the ability to write the fine, so we made that small change. And finally, I think they said it had to be passed before they could finally go through with all the fines. But none of the amounts were changed as far as I know.
No, there was no other items in the bylaw that was changed. There was just one small change in the set fine schedule. We weren't referencing the right section of the bylaw that created the offense. So we changed that, and we made the change that Andrea mentioned to make it an offense. And then once the third reading is approved by council, then the courts are going to be in the position to approve the set fines. If I may mention, we did, late on Friday, we did receive an appeal on the zoning bylaw amendment. So our deadline for the municipality for me to submit the appellant's package and the municipality's package to the OLT is on October 26th. So following that, I will keep council updated on any other development. So in the meantime, so even though council approves this bylaw and approves the fees for the travel trailer, they stay kind of in abeyance, or I don't know which word I can use. So they're still, they're not going to be valid until the appeal is finalized.
Melanie, is it in this section that the travel trailer licensing bylaw for the annual fees, we noticed a problem with them?
I know, that's going to be the next item.
That's the next item,
So
okay.
the fees that are for the annual licenses are going to be governed by our fees and charges bylaw. So
Okay.
that gives the ability to council, it gives more flexibility to council to reassess the fees if need be.
Okay, so I'll
that's
leave
gonna be
that
the
for the
next
next
item,
item.
yes.
Okay, Bob?
Yes, if I understand right, if because of the appeal, and if it drags on, does that mean that we can't charge the fee for the trailers next year?
That's correct. The bylaw wouldn't be valid until we make the changes to the zoning bylaw.
Is there an expected timeline for the court to hear the challenge and that it will move through the system, or could it potentially be 3 to 5 years tied up?
I would say we could be ready for at least a year. Depending on, so there's a process where once they approve it, there's a process that they allow a mediation. So depending on if that is even available to us or not, that the OLT is going to decide, so the Ontario Land Tribunal.
So it can still be rejected once they receive both packages and review it. It may not go to the full process?
They usually don't just reject it. It's still, so the only way that they would reject it is if the appellant withdraws their appeal, or if through the mediation that there's resolution, or that it is found that there's no ability to mediate, or something
Okay,
like
thank you.
Any?
So just a quick question. What happens when we set this bylaw? This bylaw will just sit there, but what if the appeal is won, and then what happens? Do we reverse the bylaw at that time, or how does that work? I don't know.
So if through the appeal process that so sometimes what is going to happen is if the courts suggest changes to the bylaw, then if that is the result, then those changes are going to come to council for consideration. Or sometimes they are ordered on council, so council won't have a choice. So at that point, if that happens, then we're going to bring back the bylaw to council. But in the meantime, we process as planned, and it just sits there until there is any results.
So if by chance the bylaw officer comes across something that's egregious, say just out doing a review of a property for some reason, and then is it possible to write the ticket and have it sit in limbo until this is passed, or how does that addressed? Is just let the person go with a written warning?
I would have to confirm, but because these fines have to be approved by the province and they're waiting for our third reading, I only assume that even if we pass it at the third reading, and they're not, I'm skipping over my words, if the province approves the fines, but then it's a conflict within our zoning bylaw, I don't think it would be smart to move forward if then we were challenged after that.
I think right now, because the trailer bylaw is not technically passed because of the appeal, technically they're not even allowed to have a trailer. So I would assume that the bylaw officer would go in there and make them remove the trailer because so we can't fine them for something they're not allowed to be doing. So I'm just assuming, if Andrea wants to reply to that.
That's true, Councillor Carrier. Right now, trailers are not allowed. So if there was something egregious, we would still have to go through the same channels of ordering them to be removed. We wouldn't be able to go through the process of writing tickets, but we still have the ability to remove them.
I think I was just trying to make the point so public knew it's not the Wild West. They can.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion to approve the travel trailer licensing bylaw as amended. I need a mover and a seconder, Dave and Randy.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be resolved that bylaw 2021-51, being a bylaw to license travel trailers in the municipality of French River, be read a third time and finally passed.
All those in favor? Thank you. Let's move on then to 5.6.2, which is the bylaw to amend the fees-related charges bylaw to add Schedule T travel trailer licensing bylaw, amend annual licensing fee. And so, yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor. So prior to the meeting, through discussions, I realized that I made a mistake on the schedule. So through past discussions with council, we had brought up to council that we wanted to have a renewal fee that would be reduced than the annual license fee. So I just got mixed up with my wording. So the application received, so the version that you have is not the correct one. So I'm going to read out what is the correct one. So the first fee is applications received on or after April 1st is $400. Applications received before April 1st is $320. Applications renewed before April 1st is $200. Applications renewed on or after April 1st is $300. So not together. Don't ask what I was thinking.
We all have those days. Any questions? I think the incentive is get your license early to save a few bucks. So I think that's incentive enough. Councillor Randy?
Bob was ahead of me, but anyways, I was just going to say to Mel, you didn't make a mistake. Blame the printer. It's computer error. Never a mistake.
Bob, did you have a question? No. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so I need a mover and a seconder. Renee and Bob.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be resolved that bylaw 2021-58, being a bylaw to amend the fees and related charges bylaw 2021-22, to add Schedule I, Travel Trailer License Bylaw, Annual License Fees, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the Sudbury East Building and Bylaw Services Agreement. And Andrea, you have quite a bit to report.
Thank you, Mayor Pajot. Yes, so the report that you have in front of you is already out of date. There was a meeting in Marks-Day Warren on October 4th, but I wanted to attend this meeting, so timing-wise, we wanted to put this on the agenda to be able to discuss this with council. As of today, Marks-Day Warren has decided to not move forward with the SEBS shared service agreement for building and bylaw. They're going to go in their own direction. So this report is to bring this council up to date on what's been discussed so far and to present the idea of moving forward with a shared service agreement with the 2 remaining municipalities of St. Charles and Killarney. So looking at the numbers quickly, just to point out a few discrepancies, Table 1 has an overall proposed budget to 2026. There will be an adjustment to those numbers overall because a portion of the bylaw officer line would be eliminated. About 22% of that cost was attributed to the time spent in Marks-Day Warren. So overall, the budget numbers would come down that 22% of line 11. And coming down to Table 2, we had presented 3 scenarios. One where Marks-Day Warren decided to do the complete agreement. The next where Marks-Day Warren would maybe just stay in building and not bylaw, that was considered. And then the third, which is now the only option at this time, would be to have the agreement split between 3 municipalities. And also based on an up-to-date calculation that uses, that would be a combination of a proposed budget at the beginning of the year with actuals calculated at the end of the year. That hadn't been done in the past with our agreements, so there's some changes to the calculations as well, which will be presented to council once we've had a chance to sit down with all 3 of the municipalities and really hash this out. This is very new information. We were told at the end of September that Marks-Day Warren was potentially not interested to get completely out of the agreement. So, like I said, we wanted these numbers to come forward to talk to council about the possibility of moving forward with just the 3. And finally, Table 3 was just put in place to give councils an idea of what's been spent in the past on building and bylaw services, to get a sense of what it would look like going forward. And at this time, I would just like to see if there's any questions and see if anyone, I know Mayor Pajot has been a part of all of our committee meetings, and see if there's anything you'd want to contribute.
Well, at this time, I have to say that it took us by surprise at the end of September when Marks-Day Warren unilaterally had passed a motion at their council without advising the other 3 partners that they wanted out of building and planning. And I believe it was, today's Wednesday, Monday, I believe they had an in-camera meeting to discuss going out of the building section. I did not get advised by the mayor of Marks-Day Warren of the results of that, so I heard them through you. And the other municipalities really haven't had a chance to digest what the implication is for the 3 municipalities. I believe we can do it between the 3 municipalities and work well together. If Marks-Day Warren wants to do it on their own, all the best to them, and we'll move forward with our own. So I know I have a list of people. Renee, Dave, on this side. Any questions? Okay, we'll start this way.
So just a quick question. Is Marks-Day Warren ending at the end of the year, or are they stopping right now, or will this affect like our budget from this year, or just like next year come January moving forward?
January moving forward, because we have to service them, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong.
If I may, Madam Mayor, jump in and assist Andrea, which she doesn't need assistance, but I'll jump in anyways. So we had extended our agreement for 1 year in order to try to renegotiate the contract, and the fruition of that ended up with the municipality of Marks-Day Warren deciding not to continue past December 31st. So we will be providing that service till the end of this year. In terms of the budget amounts, well, I'll let the rest of the council ask their questions, and maybe those will be part of it.
But it won't affect our budget amount for this year that we had already
No.
put aside? Okay, that's good.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Well, you basically answered my question when you said the other municipalities didn't have time to digest, but that's what I was going to ask, if the other municipalities, if we knew where they stand on this, how they feel about it.
I can speak to St. Charles because that's where I was earlier this evening. They put me earlier on their agenda, and there were no questions. Everyone was happy to move forward with the three-way agreement.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
I can tell you Killarney's on board with us, so.
Thank you, Councillor Dave stole my thunder.
I would just comment that our shared services has been kind of touted very well at the province, that they were very proud that we have joined together as these 4 municipalities and provided such a great service to the public in all 4 municipalities, and something that I believe probably some of the smaller members couldn't provide on their own, and now Marks Day Warren citizens will be definitely underserved, I think, by having stepped away from our agreement. So it's kind of unfortunate to see that they've moved that way, probably for a financial reason, but they were receiving, from what we could see, far better resources for their dollar than anything.
I agree with you, Councillor Randy. I believe that the community of Marks Day Warren will be underserviced. The shared agreement has worked very well, and the staff under the shared agreement has done an excellent job, and we're all better for it. But as the saying goes, qui sera, sera, and let them go their own way, and perhaps after a few years they'll reevaluate, and if it works for them, it works for them. If it doesn't, then we'll talk.
Well, and perhaps it's just Marks Day Warren may have the full use of a bylaw officer and a building officer of their own. Perhaps there's expecting a growth in their area. I know that they did mention a while back at a meeting that, you know, with the highway and the new casino being built, and they were anticipating more sales and growth in the Marks Day area. So perhaps they could just, you know, utilize somebody more often, you know, maybe create a position. So we'll see, and we wish them luck, and if down the road it doesn't work out, we are here to share a service again.
Exactly. So I'm not quite sure about the growth, but costs a lot of money to have somebody full-time, as we all know. So, Andrea?
Just quickly, I just wanted to mention I am presenting to the municipality of Killarney on Wednesday night, so their council hasn't fully been presented to. The CAOs and the committee members have been fairly supportive of the idea. So as much as we do feel like this will be a good agreement for everybody, the entire council of Killarney has not been addressed yet. It'll be Wednesday of next week, and then we'll bring everything forward to all councils in the next round of meetings.
So for tonight, there's no decisions or recommendations or anything to do. We just have to let the process work and let Killarney do their thing.
Exactly.
And then perhaps a new version of the committee will get together and look at it again, and then bring it back to council for an agreement.
Exactly. I want the numbers to be correct and everything in place, and then council will know exactly the decision that they're making.
Okay. Any other questions with regards to the report? Seeing none, I'm going to move to 5.6. Thank you, Andrea. I know it's been a difficult time in the last few months. So 5.6.4, Economic Development Advisory Committee report. Councillor Millette is not here, but Councillor Renee is going to give a report.
Okay, so our meeting was a while back. It was in June. It was before we presented at the AMO conference. And so we had discussed the broadband project about funding, and we had a presentation by Susan Church, who was the director of Blue Sky Net. So she made a presentation about moving forward and how to get government funding, and we did address this at our AMO conference. So that was one of, I don't know if it went anywhere, but we are still working hard on trying to get funding for our area for broadband to move forward. And we also discussed about highway signage. We did put up one sign on Highway 69. We had allocated some funds in our budget for our second sign that should be going up on the south side. We asked if we could potentially get quotes on smaller signs, keeping the same format for both the Minettville and the St. Charles area. And so we discussed that, and I think staff is working on that. We discussed the new tourism app that is out. I believe that Kedian is working on that, it promotes the area and different activities and locations within the area to help attract tourism to our area. And then we also talked about the community center discussion. I believe that was the Alvin Community Center, or was it the Noelville one, Mark?
It's just, it was a general discussion, conversation around the process to follow to start planning long-term for replacement of some of our major recreational facilities.
So, and that was basically our meeting, and I'm assuming that once Councillor Millet is back, we will probably meet sometime in November to see where we're moving forward with some of these projects.
Questions for Councillor Rennie? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, correspondence. I don't believe there's any. Item 7, I need a resolution to adopt the items contained in the consent agenda. Moved by Randy, seconded by Dave. All those in favor? Thank you. We'll then move on to, there are no notices of motion. Okay. Let's do announcement and inquiries, and I will start with this side. It's so nice to do it that way now. I can start from this side, that side, in the middle, now that we're here.
Okay.
Go ahead, Renee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Notices, well, the flea market ended last weekend. They had, I believe, 5 beautiful weekends. It went great. Sorry about that. I didn't realize my ringer was still on. So anyways, they had 5 good weekends, good volunteers. It was nice to see. It was a hit. It looks like it's going to be happening next year. They have renamed the market, was called Noelville Market. They've renamed it to French River Market. So that was, they have a new Facebook page going on for next year. So it was really good for a lot of the local small businesses in the area. Why is my phone is off? Why is it doing that? Sorry. And then Rapids game tomorrow night. So those that want to attend, you need to be fully vaccinated to go in. But they have been playing really well lately. They've given us some great entertainment. So it's been really good. Some good little players out there. There's 2 local kids and then another one that his grandfather's from the area too. So the little Racine is Monsieur Racine, one of our school teachers that used to teach us at the high school. His grandson's playing, so that's technically 3 local kids on the team, so it's nice to see. And that's about all. Oh, the forest next weekend, the volunteers, if you want to volunteer, they are going to start on the edible forest in Elvin. So they're going to start planting and digging, and so that'll be nice to see.
I don't have anything tonight, thank you.
I actually have 2 items tonight, and the first one would be on behalf of council. I'd like to offer condolences to the family of Ginny Rook, the mayor of Killarney, that's it. has passed recently, and I believe it's important that council recognizes the contributions that she has made to the community there. And then on a lighter note, October 24th, it's a Sunday, I'm going to be looking for volunteers to repaint the boards at the outdoor hockey in the Alvin Community Center. It's been 2 years since they were erected, and the paint is starting to show, and I'd like to get it this year before the ice sets and the bottoms are too damp to paint. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll be putting a Facebook post up looking for help to do that. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Two things. Don't forget, October 16th, moose season opens. Second thing I wanted to mention during the recreation report, and I was flying out a bit there for Santa Claus, your idea of recognizing volunteers, I love it. So that's a great idea, and I commend you on it, and that's it. Thank you. Merci.
Okay, I just have a few things. For the edible forest, the time is between 11 and 3 p.m. at the at the splash pad. That's where they're going to be starting. I believe they're bringing lunch as well for the volunteers. Also want to acknowledge the great work that Univ did with their, I don't know if you've noticed the mural, the mosaic mural in front of the office here, but 97 people participated in painting one piece of that mural, and it is absolutely amazing, beautiful. And so I want to acknowledge the people that organized it over at Univ. As well, on this Thursday, tomorrow, the food bank is going to open again this month, twice this month, for anybody needing extra food for the long weekend. And one of the reasons we are opening is because we received a huge donation again from Brit, and this time it consists of tons of chickens and hamburg, and I believe there's even steak in there, completely donated to our food bank. And so to make maybe the holidays a little brighter for those in need, please feel free to let people know that the food bank's open and you will be well stocked for that. As well as the French River Horticulture Society donated $500 to the food bank, and also to the Panier de Noël Christmas baskets. So they did donations on both ends. So that's great community involvement. And I think that's it for me. There's no closed session tonight. And I need a resolution to adopt the confirmation bylaw, moved by Dave, seconded by Bob. All those in favor? And I forgot, announcement, usually I'm not used to being here. Any announcements from the staff? Andrea? Mark? Mel? Barak? Mark? No? Oh, okay. Just trying to get back in the groove of in here, which is lovely. Then need a resolution to adjourn. Moved by Renee, seconded by Randy. All those in favor? Thank you. Merci. Bonsoir.